The most significant dance event in Brigadoon is at the end of Act 2. Oh, excuse me, Act 1. And it's a sword dance. And there are all kinds of mystical circumstances. If you touch the swords, you will die in battle. And all of these kinds of circumstances. So the main focus of my participation was the sword dance. And then following the sword dance is the second act. And that's where, after I lose my lady, I can't go to the university, and I flee. So now there's a big chase for me. And of course, I open the second act with the highest jump I have. And everybody goes, whoa! And that put everything into different circumstances. And it certainly put the situation of bowing in serious complication. When you've got these major film stars who are going to bow after me, and it got very complicated. and it essentially embarrassed me, but there was nothing else I could do. And, quite frankly, I had earned it. And it's not me who decided it. It was over 2,000 people who made the decision every time I danced. So I was not going to cut my wrists. It's not the way I live. And it was difficult. It was difficult. But I survived. Mm-hmm. There's a woman there named Dalrymple. And so she calls me up and says, is this something you would like to do? And we understand you've had such a success in it. But I said, sure, I would like to do it. However, the real problem is this. I never did the DeMille choreography. And I am uninterested in doing it. So, no, I don't do that unless you clear it with DeMille. That's an insult. And no, I can't do that. So he said, oh, okay. So Dalrymple tells her people, push him off, and eventually he'll give in. And I said, listen, I'm not going to do it. I am totally uninterested. Because I'm a different kind of dancer. So, anyway, everything is pushed off. And I kept saying, well, have you cleared this? Have you cleared it? And they all thought they were going to. I said, you're dealing with a different kind of dancer. And I will not do it. And so we are a couple of days away from opening. And they still hadn't cleared it. So I said, I've got to tell you now, I'm not going to do this. They all went, holy shit. Oh my God. So I said, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Dalrymple leaves town in her inimitable, squirmy personality. And so there I'm left with it, and they all come to me and beg me to, and I said, no, I'm not going to do it. Well, we're going to have Agnes call you. So Agnes decided, and I don't know if you ever knew what her personality was, but she was an aggressive, spoiled. She was a huge, arrogant, fake. No, she wasn't a fake, but she wasn't a genius. Mm. But she absolutely thought she was the genius. So then she decides she's going to call me. And I said, well, this is a very uncomfortable phone call. One of the most uncomfortable phone calls I've ever gotten. And let me tell you that the only way to deal with this is the truth. And I told her the story. And I said, Agnes, I do not wish to insult you, but I am an on-layer dancer. So if I'm going to do this in musical theater, they are going to ask me to be my kind of dancer. That's the kind of dancer that they were hiring. And I will not do your choreography, however much I admire it. I am not that. And she said, well, I have never been spoken to that like that, and by a dancer. Well, I said, Agnes, I'm sorry to say, you just happened. And let me tell you, I will not do it. And anyway, so finally, she tries to get hold of Dalrymple, and nobody can get hold of anybody, and everybody's hiding behind the scenery. So, so she realizes the position she's in. So, and she finally said, okay, well, we will not have white tights in the Glen. I said, okay, I will show you. And I showed her. And she was furious. She didn't come home tonight. George Ballinger did come. And let's see what else. Oh, I did 7 revivals of Brigadoon at City Center, 7 years in a row. Sold out. And the most uncomfortable part of it for me was that I had basically a minor role. Therefore, my bow was 4th. But by the time I finished bowing, nobody could get near it. And all of the people that they had hired were these LA guys. I mean, huge stars. And they hated me. It was, first of all, it was my theater. That's where the New York City Ballet started. So anybody who came to that theater had probably already seen me. So what was I going to do? Do a parterre role? They would have booed me off the stage. First of all, I didn't want to be involved in it. Well, it's basically a myth. And the myth is that Brigadoon only lasts Brigadoon lasts one day at a time. So the history of it is a day at a time. The whole aspect of it has this lilting kind of Scottish fantasy about it. So it's a charming production, and it entices these people who are way out on the coast, who want to be produced in New York City, a venue. And so they were thrilled and excited about it, but by the same time, chagrined about it. So it was dicey. I was a prominent dancer by that time. I was a young, prominent dancer at that time with still a lot ahead of me. So it was, if you wish to view it that way, a perfect place. It was a perfect place for me to be doing a Broadway show outside of my traditional classical presentations. It was a dream come true. But I did not make a lot of fans. I did not make a lot of fans in LA. For me as a dancer, the excitement was doing it. The excitement was not only just doing it, but being able to establish a rapport with the audience. So I included them in what I was presenting, and I included the joy that I was experiencing. And that's a magic you can't describe to other people. It's a magic that once you experience it, there's nothing like it. I mean, it really is. It's a nirvana. It's hard to explain, and it's a hard place to deny that. You just can't deny it. You just kind of glow with it. And I didn't deny it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the success with it. I enjoyed my bow. but bowing forth, and there are other people coming after me. That's a little tough. That's professionally very tough. But I had previously experienced that in Dallas and other places. And, Dallas did the same thing. They had these huge outdoor theaters, and they needed stars to fill it up. And they got these stars, and then they got me. So I had experienced it all, and I knew what the situation was going to be. To balance traditional classical ballet and or the choreography of George Balanchine with musical theater, it just depends. For me, it was movement, it was dancing, it was presentation, it was moving an audience and making an audience empathetic to your efforts. Once you get on the stage in a huge theatrical presentation like that, it's a very exciting thing to do. And to move an entire audience like that, that's one of the glories of why one does the stuff that I did. It was the reason for doing it. It was the real paying off reason. That's why you did this stuff. Certainly why I did.